welcome to the Couch Time podcast, where we give you tools to connect with your kids and point them to Jesus. I am Aaron.
And I'm Josh.
And today, we are going to have the Aaron and Josh show.
Hey! We kicked everybody else out.
Yeah, we should totally do something, I don't know, like play some game show or something. But today, we're going to be talking about music. And before you tune off, because this isn't interesting to you, really what we want to do is we want to talk about Generation Z's love of music, specifically the amount of access they have to music and how it compares to previous generations, and how, parents can use music as a tool to connect with their kids, because it is a ripe opportunity to do so.
Yeah.
And lastly, we're going to talk about, just as far as the mission, what we're doing, why we even have the podcast, why we even have jobs at the church, just as far as ministry. So we'll do a little review at the end. But starting off, music. So music is awesome.
Yes,
I love
it
music.
is.
It is extremely powerful.
Mm-hmm.
It's motivational, helps remind us of seasons from the past to reminisce, moments, feelings that we had. It enhances certain situations.
Mm-hmm.
It can be worshipful, might even be, I dare say, all music is worshipful of something. But
I agree.
There's these funny YouTube films where people take famous movie clips and remove the music, the soundtrack.
And it's terrible.
Oh, it's terrible. It's like the music
Sets
makes
the mood
it.
big time.
It makes it. It doesn't just set the mood. It makes it.
Yeah.
Like, it wouldn't be worth watching almost without the music.
Yep.
And it's the same thing with inspirational. I think of like Braveheart or Lord of the Rings, where the king is like charging up and down, getting everybody ready to go charge in the battle scene. It's like, yes. It's like, that's an inspirational moment. But there's music in the background that's enhancing it even. So music's a very powerful thing. I used to listen to music to pump myself up before soccer games. I would listen to it to, get myself motivated for certain things. It's like, music is a really cool thing. What role did music play, Josh, in your teen years?
I think hype up for sure. I did martial arts, and before a fight, I would listen to a song called Rock Fist by 1,000 Foot Krutch.
We'll put a link of that. It's a blast from the past.
Great. It was also just like, I was on worship teams.
We were in bands
things.
together.
That's right. Aaron and I were on like 2 bands.
Sure.
And playing music and listening to music was just a huge thing. I think it helped shape some of my relationship with God, because I listened to a lot of worship music. And then even like later on, when I started getting into especially Christian hip hop, I was like, whoa, it just majorly, I feel like, helped to take. It's so emotional. And so, like, I would want to listen to music that would connect with me emotionally, like, where I was at.
Yep.
But then there was a point where I actually used music to help guide my emotions to where they needed to be. So it was just kind of, like, all over the spectrum, and I listened to a lot of music.
I remember the day we were driving, and you introduced me to Jason's...
Yes.
I forget.
Fight. It was Fight. Yeah.
First rap song I heard, and it's like, wait, Christians can rap?
Right.
What?
Right.
It's like, they can. They can throw down some sweet lyrics and beats. Yeah, that's funny. So,
parents, what about you, though?
Well, before parents, I'm going to share a little bit of specifically my teen years in music.
Yes.
I'm curious, parents, you're older than we are, or listeners, whoever you are listening, whether you're parents or not. What role did music play in your teen years? So think to yourself, who was popular? What were the hits? What was the most influential band or artist that was affecting people, how they dressed, how they did their hair? It's like, who was everybody listening to?
Yep.
Something else like, how often did you listen to music? So think about those things for yourself. But for me, my teen years, I was consumed by music when I could get it.
Sure.
So I had a boombox that had 2 speakers that could clip off and extend, and I had purchased a bunch of radio wire from my brother, and I had spliced it all together and added other speakers to it surrounding in my room, and it was the worst sound quality ever. because if I turned it up past like 2 notches or whatever, didn't have numbers, everything would start to crackle. So I could only listen to it was surround sound, but it would crackle. But it was CDs back then, CDs and cassettes in my teen years, and we had a computer with the internet, but there was nothing that unless you were downloading stuff illegally,
right?
It was. You had to go get CDs. You either had to purchase CDs. I remember when iTunes came out, and that did in my high school years. And it's like I purchased a ton of stuff on iTunes, but you had to purchase albums, and that's all you could listen to. I remember going to the library to get many CDs as I could. So yeah, it was super influential in my life. I also loved, and this is a big one. There were certain people, I'm not going to give names because we grew up together. You probably
right.
know who. There were some families that I hung out with that listened to music that I love, that was music that my parents wouldn't let me listen to.
Yep.
And because they were, and it was cool, and it was secular, I loved that music because I thought that it was cool simply because of them. So it's like that genuinely made me like the music because of them, which I think is important to think about culture today with teens and music.
I think so.
So music was just huge. I used to listen to it as much as I could, but it depended on if I had a CD that wasn't scratched, I had headphones that worked, and if I was doing something where it wasn't disrespectful to have headphones in. Now it's very normal, but
right.
Yeah, so it's. How often did you listen to music, like as a teenager?
Like, actually, there was a point. I remember when I was younger, I would actually listen to like rock music as I was going to sleep. Like it would just be playing the whole time, I would fall asleep.
Are you serious?
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah, and now I wouldn't be able to do that. But most people, they're like, "You did what?"
We grew up, right?
Exactly. And I got more sleep. And then whatever. Anyways, but yeah, like I would listen to it like all the time. And even my parents, it was interesting. I remember a specific conversation with my mom because friends had guidelines about what they could and couldn't listen to. And I was like, Mom, what rules do we have about music? Because I never knew. And she basically said, well, there's really no rules. Like, just make sure what you're listening to is helpful. Man, I feel like that was like one of the golden nuggets from my mom. And I like specifically remember we were in the kitchen talking about this, and I mean, I listened to predominantly Christian music for a long time, like what people would label as Christian music. But then I like sort of like started branching out into other things, and but I would listen to it constantly. I remember going over to sleepovers, and like that's what we would do. We'd either play music or listen to
whatever
music.
We were going to do. It's like we're going to have music playing. Like 100%. Who's got speakers? Like what can we listen to?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that's interesting. My mom and dad on the other side of the spectrum. Maybe it was extreme. I don't feel like it, but I think because maybe it's because I'm from a big family and they just didn't want to keep up with all of the requests of all the different songs and assessing who's okay, who's not. Yeah. It's like we're only allowed to listen to Christian music.
Sure. Right.
Christian music. And then, at some point in high school, older siblings were allowed to listen to oldies or whatever it was. Right. There was a standard that would kind of change. But in my head, I didn't understand it. I just knew if something was sold from the family Christian bookstore, I could listen to it.
Right.
Which is kind of sad, but kind of funny. But there was a lot of good music back then. But I used to listen to it all the time. So to kind of bring this to what we want to talk about with Gen Z, I don't know, listeners, how you would answer those questions as far as from your teenage years, who was influential, what bands, what music, what songs were, the hits of your teen years. But thinking of Gen Z, no generation I think has gone without music. It's music has been around forever. Yeah.
Yep.
And every generation loves music and enjoys music and uses music for something. But Gen Z, the thing that's different than any past generation is the access that they've got. There are half a dozen to a dozen streaming services online where you can listen for free to just virtually any artist, any song, any genre at any time.
Right.
And couple that with the fact that most everybody has access to some smart device, whether it's an iPod, an iPhone, or smartphone, or computer, tablet. It's like anybody can listen to anything at any time, anywhere, just about. And so the access alone is what changes Gen Z in their use of music. So a couple statistics just to put in perspective. 2017, a study was done, and Americans spent an average of 32 hours a week. I don't know when the last time is you looked at your phone and the amount of time you spend on your screen time, go look at whatever app you use for music and look, just look and see. I'd be curious, how much.
32 hours a week listening to music.
On average. Wow. Yeah. 85% of.
And that's Gen Z or just Americans
that was Americans in general.
That's nuts.
So, and that's 2017. I think it's only grown since then. That was 4 years ago.
Yeah, it has to.
Yeah. So in 2017, again, 85% of 13 to 15-year-olds admit to streaming music online.
It's almost
so
like
that's
a confession.
That's kind of funny, like how that was worded. I put that in there because I think it's funny.
Yeah.
That's 2017, 85%. Okay, so 13 to 15-year-olds now, it's almost expected, so they don't have to admit to anything.
Yeah.
Streaming it happens when I'm at the gas pump. Like
normal
music videos just start playing whether I'm streaming them or not. Like it's everywhere. So teenagers, it's just super normal. You take that and add it to the social media culture that teenagers are living in now, music. Again, every artist's song, music videos, genre, kids have access to anything.
For sure.
So it's a social media culture. Music is more enjoyable, I wouldn't say necessarily for Gen Z. It's just more accessible to the point where some people even say that it's a lifestyle. So for teenagers, I don't know if you've seen that, Josh, with your teens at middle school at Florence or even high school as you witness at Florence. Some have even claimed, and parents, I want you to hear this because it's a very, very big deal. And this is what we said before, where it's such a ripe opportunity to connect with kids. Some people have even said that it's somewhat of a religion. So a lifestyle and religion, meaning, teens' lives are shaped by it, consumed and directed by it. It's like, that's very true.
Yes, I would 100% agree.
So Josh, how do you see music impacting teens at your campus?
What's interesting is when I ask, I can almost with 90% accuracy, I can usually tell the genre of music that a student listens to by the way they dress. So I think that is part of the you're being shaped by it, right? And I don't know, when even somebody's demeanor too, how they come across. When I'm talking with a student, I'm like, could have guessed that. They tell me what they listen to. Normally I'll be like, what are your top 3 bands or artists? And when they tell me, I'm like, that makes sense. And so because again, just either I think it's 2 things. One, I think big part of it is they're being shaped. I think a lot of times too, they will also gravitate towards artists that maybe say things that they feel. And so that's why music is so powerful, because of emotions. And when an artist can kind of come with a song, whether it's the lyrics, whether it's the music or the combination, that kind of gives voice to feelings that students, especially high schoolers and middle schoolers, that maybe have a hard time articulating feelings.
For sure.
They're just oh yes, this.
And to take it even a step deeper, and how I see it is, because of social media and technology, people follow the artists.
Yes.
And so maybe there's an artist who they resonate with for whatever reason, and they like their music because they know what that person believes, what that person thinks, what that person's going
100%.
through. So it might not even be the music anymore. It's just the They have
almost
access
this
to
connection.
It's,
Like I did the same
yeah.
thing with an artist, and I like would get their DVDs of
Yeah.
like different documentaries, and I would
Yeah.
watch it over and over and over again. Granted, it was like 2 artists because that's the access I had to. But like you were talking about access. It's like that is so prevalent,
Yeah.
so easy.
And
now.
again, that's like, parents, I think it's the same for you from your generation, but it was maybe a little bit harder,
Right.
and you had to do a little bit more work to find info on your artists.
Yeah.
But that either made you like artists and music more, or it
Yes.
made you not like music
Exactly.
more. Nowadays, think the access. People can type up and look up anything on any artist at anybody at any time and listen to their music and form an opinion like that. And then you think of students who are developing, like you said, teenagers that I see, to tie to what you said before of why you listen to music, Josh, and this is super important, parents. This is such an opportunity for you to use music to help guide and lead our feelings versus the other way around.
Right,
It's not wrong to I want to listen to something I'm feeling kind of feisty right now. I'm going to go find some music that's going to make me kind of jive with that. That's not wrong, but say I'm in a really hard season and I'm struggling with something and I turn to music that kind of
brings you down
me down.
Yes.
It's that is terrible.
Right.
We have truth as Christians to combat and to put off and to put on.
Yes.
And it has everything to do with knowing where you're at and catching those things and replacing. That's the work of renewing our minds, which Romans 12 talks about.
Right.
We've got to be doing that.
But that's the key. You said renewing our minds, not I almost view I've been guilty of this. That's why it's resonating so much of, I maybe, I don't know that I might have been depressed in seasons of my life. I wouldn't maybe use that strong of a term, but very sad, very melancholy. That's kind of my default setting. But there are times where I'll listen to sad music because I'm sad. That can be okay to an extent until it becomes unhelpful and I'm just sort of wallowing in this sadness or whatever, self-centeredness, self-introspection where I can't even get out of it. That's where it's a problem. And so to be renewing your mind, that means something new has to come in that's maybe
replacing
not there.
it with,
Yes. That's great.
Yeah, and so to kind of bring this full circle and wrap up here, parents, to give you a few things to do very specifically to connect with your kids. It's not about, secular versus Christian, where you draw the lines in the sand. It's that's different for every family based on your kid and where they're at, whether they love the Lord, whether they don't. And, it's so that's some work that you're going to have to do. But I think these basic steps here will help you because of the amount of music that teens listen to and have access to, as we've been saying. What that does for teenagers who are developing is it makes it virtually impossible to weigh and sift through what is good, what is bad.
Right.
And they need, parents, it's your job to help them know how to do that. You have to train them how to do that. It's only once you've trained them will you send them off into the adult world to do that on their own. So if you're not training them to do that now with what's coming into their ears, into their brain, what they're thinking about,
they will be trained by somebody.
Oh, they are being trained for sure. So so here's some things to maybe help do that. So 3 things. Number 1, do your homework. Number 2, listen with them to the music that they like to listen to.
Yeah.
And the third thing is ask questions. Yeah. So number 1, doing your homework, and this might be very revealing to you parents. Where are they listening to music? With the wireless headphones, I catch kids all the time sitting in lesson time at youth group. It's they're wearing a headphone. It's what are you doing?
Right.
So I just have it in. I'm not listening to anything. It's wait.
Yeah.
I don't know if they are lying to me or what, but kids have headphones in all the time. Sometimes it's just for looks because they want to look cool, and sometimes they're actually listening.
Yep.
Where are they listening to music? Who are they listening to? Who are they listening with? What's most popular right now? What are the lyrics? So those are some of the questions. But as you do the homework to the answers to those questions, it will help you understand what's good, what's bad. Do you have any thoughts on that before I give a couple resources?
I think the one thing with this is, and Aaron's talked about this before, but it's just because there's so much, I just want to encourage you not to like get super overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Like
It's
it can be
vast.
overwhelming, and so like maybe just pick a couple highlights to kind of research. Like you're not going to be able to catch every different
There's no
song.
way.
Like
There's
so
no way.
maybe just pick a couple to kind of get a sense of where your student is at and what they're listening
That's
to.
a really good point because, and we're not, this is a rabbit trail, but something that has changed since I was a teenager is there's a song that's really popular right now. It's going to be old in a week.
I know.
The amount of music that's being produced that's good music that
Is
teens love because they're listening to so much.
Right.
It's like by the time I realize an artist or a song, it's like I'm a boomer.
Yep.
It's like it's old and everybody makes fun of me because I play it because I think that I'm going to be cool and hip, and kids are like, nah, that was last week. We got this other song now. It's like, so yes, it's overwhelming,
Right.
but all the more reason to do homework,
Right.
to try to stay up to date at least as much as possible because, connecting with your kids is super important.
Yeah.
But it's also a process. It's not just a one-time thing. It's an ongoing conversation that you're having by investing with your kids, by showing interest in what they're interested in.
Totally.
So, couple resources with them as you seek to do homework when you're asking questions. commonsensemedia.org.
Great for movies and music.
Great for media, just entertainment in general. So they'll give you reviews. So you hear like what's really popular, like what's one of your favorite songs right now, and a kid says, a funny name. It's like that's what, go look it up on commonsense.org, and it'll give a good objective. It'll get a rating. It'll talk about if it's explicit or if it's not. Excuse me. Another one an app, and we've talked about this before, but Famous Birthdays is an app that you can have and download. I'd encourage it. It's Josh, how would you explain it? It's
okay, if you've ever used IMDb, it's like a database for like movies and who's in a movie, different actors and directors. It's kind of like that for famous people. So it's almost like a condensed Wikipedia. So it only, instead of giving you like every little detail, it gives you like pertinent highlights to famous people and influencers.
So it's like if your kid drops a name of some influencer that's a YouTube artist that has music that they're producing on YouTube, maybe you've never thought about that, but they exist. It's like go to Famous Birthdays app and type in that that whatever the name is. And it'll pull up just a brief bio that you can read, and it's like, boom. And it's not lengthy. It's way easier than going and looking online. You Google something, you're going to get so much other stuff. It just helps to sift through. So those are two resources that are helpful.
Yeah.
So, so do your homework. Ask questions, as far as of your kids, and when they're giving answers, make mental notes about what to look up, where to go, and then spend time with your kids. Listen to it with them when you're driving in the car. And this might
big.
This might be the absolute worst thing you can imagine is listening to the music that your kids want to listen to because it's terrible.
Yeah.
But again, what are you trying to accomplish with your kids?
Right.
What's at stake here? It's like you have an opportunity to invest and show them that you care.
Yeah.
Not to just say, this is terrible, I don't want you to listen to it anymore, but to ask them questions about why do you like this? Do you know anything about the artist? It's like, is this a good song or bad song?
Yeah.
Kind of pick it apart, dissect it with them. And the goal, and we can be done here, help them assess, teach them to assess and to be critical thinkers.
Yep.
So that's something that I wish, Mom and Dad, I love you, but I wish I would have been trained better on is not just, that's bad, this is good. It's, there's a lot in the middle, actually, that I need to be able to think, what is good? Why is it good? What is bad? Why is it bad? This is healthy for me. This is not. In this season of life, I need to stay away from this or go to this. So it's...
Like, I've even been assessing myself recently. I've been listening to music that's not entirely helpful. It's fine music.
Yeah.
It's just not entirely helpful for where I am right now, where the Lord has me spiritually. So I should probably listen to something that's going to guide me in a different and better direction.
You will, if you spend time investing in what your kids enjoy listening to and what they like, you will earn their trust. And when you want to, and when everything in you wants to just say, take your headphones out and stop listening to music, it's like, you say that to your kids, they're just going to roll their eyes at you. Maybe they don't do it literally, but music is a huge deal right now. So use it as an opportunity to connect with your kids. So,
Yep.
Josh, any closing thoughts?
No, that's it. I think, if you do these three things, you're really going to be, even just starting to do some of these things, I think it's going to be huge. And
Yeah.
I love to listen with them, use car rides. Just be like, hey, do you want to be DJ right now? What do you want to listen to? And then just let them, and don't critique. That's the biggest thing. Don't critique right away.
Yeah.
Like, just listen, and we'll see what doors the Lord opens with that.
Yeah. Lastly, two things that I'm remembering is, don't be surprised at what they listen to or what people are listening to. There is some
Give
really
them a look like, do what?
there is some really terrible music out there. Terrible music that is at the top of the charts.
Yeah.
So
Terrible
it's like
content-wise. Sometimes
that's what I'm referring to.
There's taste differences, but then content-wise, like, oh my word.
It is explicit. It is sinful. It is wicked and evil.
Yeah.
But everybody's eating it up.
Right.
And so it's like, brace yourselves, parents. Don't be surprised, but all the more reason to go and enter this world with them.
Yeah.
And lastly, Tripoli has said something that's most helpful when it comes to entertainment. He said, and I'll just remind you of this, I've said it before, anything that pushes you to Christ, like, use it. It's great. Anything that pushes you away from Christ, reject it.
Right.
So it's very simple. Love you guys. Hope this was helpful. You can always reach out to us. Peace out. Have a good week.
Hey, thanks for watching.
You can follow us on Instagram at The Couch Time Podcast.
Let us know what you thought about the podcast. Also, let us know if there's any topics or things you'd like us to cover. You can comment and email us at podcast@graceky.org.
Please like, subscribe, and share the video with other parents.